Welcome back. Well, major cities gearing up for the holiday weekend this upcoming weekend ahead of July 4th amid a nationwide spike in crime. New York City increasing police presence in Times Square following the weekend daylight shooting of a 21-year-old Marine. This as Chicago records its 300th homicide this year. 300. Joining me right now is the National Fraternal Order of Police Vice President and Houston police officer, Joseph Gamaldi. Officer, great to see you this morning. Thanks very much for being here. First, give us your take on why the spike in crime across the country in the last year.
Yeah, I think what you're really seeing is these signs of urban decay that are occurring in our communities, and it's a result of rogue prosecutors and activist judges who have created a revolving door criminal justice policy in all of these major cities. So we have gangbangers, we have people that are our trigger pullers who are getting out on probation after shooting people, or they're out on 8 felony bonds, and then after they shoot someone, they get another bond. Combine that with the anti-police rhetoric that seems to permeate every single major city that we have in this country, and it's a recipe for disaster. But this is just the beginning. I mean, we saw historic crime numbers in 2020. We saw over 20,000 homicides, which we hadn't seen since the mid-90s. 2021 is outpacing it, and it's even worse in the cities that decided to defund their police department. They saw increases in murders in Chicago by 34%, in Minneapolis 236%, Portland 137%, New York City 50%, right. Philly 66%, and the list goes on and on.
Yeah, a lot of those cities are Democrat cities, and unfortunately, policy has something to do with this. I mean, look, the defund the police movement obviously had a major impact. You're also talking about the ending of cash bail, the New York plans to shut down Rikers Island and lower prison capacity, and then, of course, you've got wide open borders. So all of these policies from the Democrats have resulted in a massive spike in crime, and yet White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki actually astoundingly blamed Republicans for defunding the police. She said by voting against Biden's massive spending plan. This as Democrat Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez dismisses the rise in crime. She said that the headlines are causing hysteria. Your thoughts on what you're hearing from Jen Psaki and AOC?
Yeah, I mean, it's a complete joke. I mean, it's like they're trying to tell the American public, don't believe your lying eyes. I mean, in the same day that the press secretary was saying that it's Republicans that are defunding the police, the Oakland City Council, which is Democrat-controlled, decided to defund their police by $18 million while their homicide rate is up over 87%. I mean, this is just Washington talk. And as far as Congresswoman Cortez, I find it funny that she says this is hysteria and that these are just statistics. Well, excuse me, Congresswoman, these are actual people who are being murdered. Fathers, sons, daughters, mothers being murdered wholesale in our street, and you've got the nerve to say this is all hysteria? But I think what you saw was the Congresswoman said the quiet part out loud, and that is the narrative matters more to them than people's lives. We have a major problem in our cities right now, but the fact of the matter is the American police officer delivered historic crime reductions in the last 20 years, and it led to an urban renaissance, and we can do it again if we restore the rule of law, if we prosecute violent crime, and if we embrace broken windows theories, and if we get the funding and the support from our community members and our elected officials, we can turn this around.
Yeah, Dagan McDowell, jump in here because you and I really watched this and expected this to happen as we reported on the policy changes as they were happening over the last couple of years, Dagan.
And Joseph, part of the, and I want to point this out, this has been going on for years here in New York City, and part of the problem is it's not just the governor, the left-wing assembly, the mayor. It's also the city council, which voted to stop enforcement of quality of life crimes. Well, that's one of the ways that, and the left-wing liberals in New York dismissed it like, oh, what's wrong with public urination? But that's one of the ways that police officers get guns off the street. And then you disband the plainclothes anti-gun anti-crime unit last year. That's part of the problem. I just want to ask somebody like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, before she stands up for law-abiding citizens and residents, how many people need to die every year? Like, what's your bar for giving a damn about crime in this city? Because last year, only 468 people were murdered in New York. At the 1990 high, it was over 2,200. So is that where we're going before you start caring about the safety of New Yorkers?
Joseph, what do you say?
I mean, it's just completely terrible. And you know what the worst part about all of this is? It's members of our Black and brown community that are impacted most. Statistically, they are the victims of these violent crimes. So while she goes out there and talks about how all these lives matter, but apparently they don't matter to her too much because she's not supporting policies that will ultimately be able to impact the crime that's occurring. And I think they realize that this is a huge, complete loser, the defund the police movement for the Democrat Party. Representative Clyburn said that after they nearly lost the majority during the midterms. Not only that, if you look at a recent Gallup poll, 81% of Black Americans said they don't want less police officers in their neighborhoods. They want more. And if you look at a recent poll in New York City, less than 15% of the Black and Latino community want to defund the police. It's a complete joke.
And those are the people who voted for Eric Adams. It was Black and Latino voters in the outer boroughs, not the snots, the elitists in Manhattan. It was people who see crime at their doorstep, and they care, and they want it change, and they voted for Eric Adams for mayor.
Yeah, but you know what, Dagan? I want to point out what former police commissioner Ray Kelly told us last week when he joined us on this program about Eric Adams. We're going to play that soundbite coming up. He said talk is cheap. He's not buying Eric Adams that he's going to focus on crime. Joseph Gamaldi, good to see you, sir. Thanks very much. Stay with us. We'll be